And listening to that, reminds me of the many scenes in Wednesday, Season 2, Part 1. Let's dive into the unforgettable characters of Wednesday now. Wow. Well, there you are, Jenna. Can you tell us what changes Wednesday goes through in this season?
She doesn't change. I mean, she knows exactly who she is. Everybody else around her has to catch up. I think the only thing that's different perhaps is, in the first season we saw Wednesday get comfortable with a hug for the first time or someone touching her, which was a very scary thing for her. And then the second season, I think her biggest conflict or challenge is learning to rely on family and friends because she's very independent. But without her ability and with this confused state and dealing with a villain who's much smarter than her, or at least at times, it's hard for her to be dependent on other people.
And, speaking of, not only does Wednesday begin to live with her family at Nevermore Academy, but she also goes through this confusion because she finds herself not being able to use her psychic powers as the way she was able to before, and that must have been quite complex. How did you go about portraying such complex emotions of Wednesday? Especially with her not being the most expressive.
Yes, I would love to give a thoughtful answer here. I really would. But I don't know, I show up and I do my job. I guess a lot of this season, because I was interacting with other people, it was nice to be able to play off of, talented people like Emma, who were at odds oftentimes. And we also had the wonderful addition of Joanna Lumley, and she added a lot of kind of joy/misery to Wednesday's life. But for me, it's more so you show up on the day and you get a feel for the situation, and as long as you're aware of the character's arc or where she is in that moment in time, these things, they can happen quite naturally.
I mean, that was indeed a thoughtful answer. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, speaking of your collaborators, let's talk about Enid. Emma, can you please tell us about the Enid we're going to get to meet in Season 2?
Yeah, so the Enid we meet in Season 2 is a bit different from Season 1. At the end of Season 1, she wolfed out, finally unlocked her powers. So she's had a summer and comes back to Nevermore a different person. She has a lot more confidence in herself, has joined a pack, and is finally put in life she's always wanted to be a part of. And so she's living her best life now.
That's wonderful to hear. Now, as you said, Enid has wolfed out, and she experiences difficulties in relationships as well, and that includes her relationship to Wednesday. How did you go about portraying Enid in such unique circumstances this time around?
Well, I think Enid's a bit confused this season because she assumes that her and Wednesday have passed that weird boundary that Wednesday put up in Season 1, and because of Wednesday's premonition and pushing her away, I think she doesn't quite understand why Wednesday is pushing her away. So, they kind of butt heads a bit this season. But it's always fun working with Jenna because I feel like we have a natural sort of relationship like that. It always just happens naturally. There's no forcing. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now, we have been talking a little bit about the characters of Wednesday, and I think our conversation reminds us of the many scenes that we saw in Part 1 of Season 2.
배우님들께 먼저 여쭤보고 싶은데요. 같은 질문이고요. 두 캐릭터 모두 굉장히 큰 사랑을 받고 있지만 전형적으로 사랑스럽지 않은 굉장히 괴짜 캐릭터거든요. 이렇게 괴짜 소녀를 연기한다는 것 두 배우에게 좀 어떤 의미가 있을지 궁금하고요.
So, three-part question. First of all, it's wonderful to have you all here in Korea. I very much enjoyed Season 1 and Part 1 of Season 2. My first question goes to Jenna and Emma. Both of your characters are so widely loved all around the world, but both of your characters, they're not the typical lovable girl character, I would say. They're both outcast girls. How does it feel, and what do these respective characters each mean to you?
What was the question again?
What does your character Enid mean to you, especially considering the fact that she's not your typical girl, lovable girl character?
She means so much to me. I think because she's not your typical lovable girl character. I love that she's weird and she's an outcast, and I love that she's so unapologetically herself. She doesn't care what other people think about her. You know, she can be crazy and wear weird things and all that, and it doesn't matter. And I think that's so important nowadays. These characters represent uniqueness and being yourself and not fitting into what society thinks is normal. So I think that's why they're so widely loved, because I think people truly want to feel that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of your question, but I'm kind of struggling to come up with what a typical lovable girl character is. Do you know? I feel like oftentimes the ones that do resonate true to people are the ones that, go against the grain and, are moving in the opposite direction. I think, originality and a true sense of self is so important, and that it takes a lot of time to develop something like that. So I'm very inspired by these young girls who, at their age, it's so easy to fall into the bandwagon mentality, but they don't, and they are themselves. So I'm glad that, maybe young people now, in the day and age of social media, are able to look at these girls and see the importance of speaking your own mind and, having your own voice, regardless of whether or not people agree with you. But I do think the most lovable ones are the disturbed ones and are the strange ones, and just because we all feel like that, we all have flaws and we all have things wrong with us, and to see that celebrated, I think it is one of the more exciting things happening in our world at times.
At least make sure we can see your faces. Perfect.
It's atoms with 2 Ds, like padded room.